I've been putting out a lot of videos lately on I guess the fuel heat problem with the older car, the carbureted car, and the problem actually is this. It's not. This wasn't really a big problem back in the day. I remember it used to be a problem once in a while, but as designed from the factory, pretty much most of the cars back in the 60s, 70s, and 50s wouldn't have this problem with the vapor lock and fuel percolating. Unless under extremely unusual circumstances. You know what's going on? The gas has been reformulated. Ethanol gas, the stuff that has 10% ethanol in it, which they don't even know. You don't even know if you're getting 10% because I think some say that it's mixed at the station itself, and nobody really checks it. But the other side of it is the ethanol. The new blends they got today have a much lower boiling point on the fuel with heat. I was trying to find out the specifications, but I know it's much lower. So there's your problem. Now, I don't have a problem with that Suzuki. This thing is probably going to get fixed 100%, but I want to make it sure it's fail-safe, because once I attack something, it's in stages, and I'll get it right. I know I put this hose around the metal fuel line, and I know they sell sleeves that you can put around the metal fuel line, but I use the 3/4 inch heater hose, and the heater hose will rest against the water pump without burning, because obviously it's attached to the heater hose, attached right there. Now, I don't know if I could put, maybe I got to do even more. Maybe I know I'm going to do the phenolic resin spacer, which I knew right away about those things back from the day. They give you a little more horsepower, actually, supposedly, and sometimes they say 25 horsepower, but it's more like 3 or 5 possibly, because it's cooler fuel coming into the intake. I got that coming from it's for circle track racing, and it comes with this stud kit and the 2 gaskets, so I'll put that in there, and that'll insulate the carburetor from the intake manifold. Now, I know the Mopars back in the day, I think they had a thermal spacer in there, but the Mopars also, there was a windage tray. The windage tray covered up all the, where the push rods were exposed in the lifters. Then the manifold was about that much higher than the windage tray, and it actually had insulation under it. That was back when Mopar and Chrysler, Dodge and Chrysler and Plymouth were making really good cars. And I never had a problem with vapor lock with the old 69 Roadrunner, or even with the starter getting too hot. I know with the Chevys you got to sometimes even put a shield around the starter. This does have a shield around it. I got a new starter for it, but it doesn't really need one. The other aspect is the mechanical. I'm going to tell you a tip here in a second, though. I'm going to try. The mechanical fuel pump could be actually a problem too, because it's attached to the block. Even though there's a gasket there, it's almost like, maybe you want to put 2 gaskets. I don't know. Sometimes people just put, even without putting electric fuel pump in a gas tank, they route a electric fuel pump that's a low pressure one, and they just put it, say, on this inner fender or something like that, away from the exhaust, and then it's away from the engine. But I don't think I think the main problem I had was when I changed that fuel pump. I might have had this line resting away from the block before, and now it was touching, so now it's insulated by rubber, so it's going to be better than it was. I was able to start the car last night after it was warmed up. It was still a bitch to start, but I didn't have to use starting fluid, and it was still much easier to start, although pretty damn bad, than it was before. It was an improvement for sure. Now, what some people have been saying is to use Marble Mist Oil or diesel fuel or even automatic transmission fluid in the ethanol gas to raise the boiling point on the gas. The ATF makes a lot of sense in some ways, because I know automatic transmission fluid, especially like AT4, is synthetic. It's got a very high boiling point, but it's not flammable. You actually lower your, it's flammable up to a real high flash point, so it lowers your octane. So And Marvel Mist Oil sounds like a good idea too, because you know, you can put that in your gas. What I'm going to use is the diesel fuel, though, because I got loads of that around. I'm going to put 1 quart. If you put 1 quart in 12.5 gallons, you got a 2% mixture. I'm going to see if this works. I don't know if it is. We're going to find out right now, right? I think there's like 14, 15 gallons of gas in here, so it's going to be less than a 2% mixture. It's not enough to make it smoke or foul the plugs. We'll see if it makes a difference, you know, when I run it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But that's, somebody said that's a tip. But I think just routing the lines and insulating the lines, or just insulating the lines away from the heat, and putting a phenolic resin spacer, which I knew about this crap from like 40, 50 years ago. I mean, it just rang a bell, and it says, but what I was wondering was, why all of a sudden is this crap given? Why is this not? It's not the carb. The carb is not that screwed up. They're formulating the gas probably even worse, probably to make sure these cars get off the damn road. That's my suspicion. Okay, that's my suspicion, because they can formulate even the ethanol gas to have different flash points. They can have it a lower flash point, a higher flash point. They have winter blends. They got summer blends, all this other garbage, right? If they wanted to, they can make the flash point with the ethanol 10% E10 gas much higher, and these cars would never get freaking vapor lock. Got it? You see what's going on? That's me talking now. Little common sense. But it is the gas. That's what these cars never had, that kind of problem with vapor lock in it before. That's what's going on. They changed the freaking gas, and they're probably making it worse. I'm going to try the diesel fuel trick for right now. I'm waiting on the fuel regulator, the fuel pressure regulator. Just going to set that at 5 pounds. You know, I don't know if that's going to be a problem. That's going to fix much, but it's still a good thing to put on here with a Holley 500 CFM, because they really require about 5 pounds, 6.5 pounds, 7 pounds. It's kind of high. That's what it might be putting out on a new fuel pump. The other thing is, the reason I kept the idle up around 1200 RPMs is because if this thing got stuck in traffic for, like, you know, it's got to be there for maybe 20 minutes or so, whatever, maybe 15 minutes at least in hot weather. If I notice the idle starts going down a little bit and it loads up, and it might, you know, stall or pop out of the carburetor if I'm not careful taking off. So I always kept the idle up to 1200 RPMs to keep, you know, the thing, so I wouldn't have an issue if I was driving in hot weather and heavy traffic. But then, if I fix this, I could bring the idle down a little more, so when I shut it off, it'll shut off in diesel. Now this car, this Suzuki, it's, you know, it's a Samurai, but it's a Jimny 1300. It's an Asian model, right? It's the same thing as a Samurai, only skinnier. This has got no problem with vapor lock. But then, you look at, you know, here's the fuel pump. It's up here on the top. I mean, I don't know if it's still attached to the engine, but maybe it's, I don't know. I don't think the fuel pump on the Chevy is going to be a major problem, to tell you the truth. But, you know, because it's not a tight engine compartment. The other thing is, you notice the hoses. The hoses coming into the fuel pump, they're metal going from the tank down to here, but then they're rubber. It's got a return fuel line, okay? Excess fuel could, you know, if it's bubbling up or some crap, or it's too heavy, you know, the Chevy's got that too, though. But this one's got one right on the fuel pump, which is better. And it's got your, what is this? Here's the fuel. I don't even know where it is, man. Oh, here it is. Yeah, this is it. The regulator. This is the other. This is something else. This was from the. I don't know what that is. That's from the charcoal canister. Here's the regulator set on 2.5 pounds, and this is all rubber. So this thing doesn't get that super hot. And then I got a couple thick gaskets under there. I know it's a metal spacer, but there's some pretty thick gaskets under there, so that pretty much insulates the carb. And the exhaust is on the opposite side of the intake. That helps too. If you have an engine where the exhaust and the intake are on the same side, you know, you might have an issue. Now, what I can do, this doesn't have any issue with percolation of the fuel, and it's got a carburetor. So, you know, this thing If you got headers, you might want to watch where your fuel line is running. You know, I'm going to take a look on the bottom where the catalytic converter is. Now, I think my fuel line is running at least a foot away from that thing, but then again, maybe I might wrap that damn fuel line up with, I don't know, aluminum foil or some garbage and put some ties on it, you know, with zip ties or some garbage, you know. The other thing is, if the phenolic resin spacer doesn't work, along with this, you know, I already did the insulation of the fuel line right here. If that doesn't work, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put something underneath here to, you know, deflect the heat away from the carb. You know, hopefully deflect the heat away from the carburetor. And I might also trim this gasket. I don't want to trim it over there because that's where the distributor is. You don't want water going in there. I might trim this back a few inches right here on this side, and also that side where the hood closes on that gasket, so there'll be more heat escaping. As a matter of fact, I should do that anyway, because the heat that goes, the air that goes through here there'll be more air blowing through here and out the opposite side, you know? Sort of like you don't need a cowl induction hood if it's coming in this way, and it can come out through here, you know. I should probably chop some of this shit down. I should chop. I'm going to chop some of that down right now, man. You know? Let a little more air come out, because it's like that much room. Give it about that much room, right? Give it about that much room on each side. I think the only reason they got this is if water runs down, well, you're not going to get, if this part of the hood ain't going to freaking, you know, if it gets anything in here, it ain't going to freaking matter, you know what I mean? It ain't shit. So, I'll do that too. But first, we'll find out. I'm just throwing some stuff out here, man, because, and I didn't talk to him, I was reading about, some people said you can't mix diesel with gas, and other people says this guy's freaking wrong, and I'm believing that guy, because I know you could freaking mix Marvel Mist Oil with gas. You know, you can mix antifreeze with water to raise the boiling point of water. Why can't you freaking mix something with gas to raise the boiling point of gas? What the hell's wrong with a little common sense, man? Don't think too freaking technical. So we're going to do this right now. I'm going to put a quart of that stuff in here and give it a test ride and see what happens. Let's see what happens. It's been sitting about 25 minutes. Well, didn't work. Well, at least I can get it started, though. And there's definitely an improvement from when I put the wrap around the fuel line. I mean, before I'd be getting out there, opening the hood, spreading starting fluid, and it's pretty hot too. The sun's beating down on the hood and all that kind of shit. So. And to tell you the truth, very subjective. The car did seem to run better with just that little bit less than 2% diesel fuel mixed in the gas. I might run that stuff anyway because it's an upper cylinder lubricant. I got loads of diesel laying around. So, but the problem is The problem definitely is the freaking fuel that they got today, but that's, you know, freaking thing. Oh yeah, I gotta do that again. It's idling up a little high. It's idling up a little high. This thing should be idling around 750. I got it idling around, I don't know, 1200 or something. And that's why it runs on like that. And that's not the timing. It's not a vacuum leak. It's up high because the idle mixture screw is up high. Because when I'm in traffic and this thing gets loaded up with the fuel bubbling and all that kind of garbage, I don't know if it's going to do that as much. I had the idle up just a little higher because then when the fuel gets bubbling, the idle starts going down a little more and you could stall. So I lift the idle up, and then when I shut it off, I usually, you know, if it's hot, you got to shut it off with popping the clutch too, you know, when you shut the key off. But honestly, it did seem to run a little bit better with the diesel fuel in it. And, you know, I don't know, maybe you got to put like 5% diesel fuel. Maybe I need to put, I don't know, 2.5 quarts or something for 13 gallons of gas or something like that. Or maybe like when you do a fill up of like 15 gallons or so, you put like a whole gallon of diesel in it instead of like a, you know, a little over a quart. Maybe if I put like 4 times as much, it would work. But if you can find gas that doesn't have ethanol in it, and you got a car that's doing this, you might stop it right there. Because it's just the same damn principle with antifreeze. You know, why do you put in, you know, you're formulating the fuel today to do this. Because, you know, what I think it is, I mean, I don't think it's just ethanol. I know it's ethanol that's doing it, but it's also, you know, I think it's planned obsolescence. You know how to do crap like, you know, like Apple was slowing down your cell phone, that you've got an older one to save the battery, so you can buy a new phone. You know what I mean, right? I'm fixing this thing. I'm going to figure it out. The phenolic resin thermal spacer for the carb is coming in. The pressure regulator is coming in. If that don't work, I'm gonna look under the lines to see if the lines, even if they're 1.5 feet away from the freaking catalytic converter, I'm gonna wrap the lines. And if that don't work, I'll install an electric fan under the hood with a switch with a 10-minute timer. So I hit a button, I can hit the electric fan, it blows out all the freaking hot air, right? That could be something, I don't know. And another thing, if you notice on the old cars, some of the old custom cars, you got the louvers on the hood. The reason they did that, especially on the Ford flathead V8s, they had problems with even with the old fuel. The Ford flathead V8s, they used to have problems with the fuel percolating and getting vapor lock. Now this isn't that bad because I could start the car up even when the under hood temperature is, you know, at the highest. Some cars you got to wait 2 hours before you can freaking start them. At least I could start it. And before, the way it was before I did like the insulation over the fuel line, it was. I had to try to start it, wouldn't start. I'd open up the hood, spray starting fluid in the carburetor, take the air cleaner cover off, spray starting fluid in the carburetor, get under there, crank the crap out of it, would start, then it would stall. Then I'd do the same thing with the starting fluid 3 times, then I would get it. So I definitely did improve it with just putting that insulation on the thing. And let's see. You know what? Curious. I mean, I don't know if you find this interesting or not, but I'm curious about this shit. I always got it. I see the fuel? No bubbles. No bubbles. I mean, okay, I just ran it, but still, right? No bubbles. You know? Let me check this in about 10 minutes, see if there's bubbles. I left the hood closed for about 20 minutes. And we'll see if the fuel is bubbling there, because I figured. Yeah, there is a little bit. There is a little bit. Son of a bitch. Let's try something here. Guess if I gotta get started, I could do this. Man. So the fuel is bubbling from what? The fuel pump being attached to the engine. I'm gonna put more diesel in it. Look at that shit. It's a lot of bubbles, man. I'm going to try putting more diesel in it and see what the hell happens. See if that does work. Well, let's see what happens. I got about, say 8% freaking diesel versus a little less than 2%. See if it makes a difference. I don't know. Hey, I'm just trying stuff. For a second, I thought it was going to stay lit. Nah. Oh, stay lit now. It is a little bit better. I mean, it's definitely hot. To put this, see, starting fluid, right? I don't have to use that. Shut off the clutch and there's a few things I can do. I don't know if the diesel does that much. Maybe that's just an internet rumor. No bubbling right now because there's new cool fuel through there, right? That's what the deal is. What I could do is possibly mount a fan right there or something, blowing on it right into there. That we can run for 10 minutes while the engine's off. That'll work if that's the last ditch effort. The other thing I could do is run a steel braided fuel line like that, right over, instead of that steel going near the block. Come up and make a bracket or something off the intake manifold that it comes up over here and goes into there like that. How's that? And I don't know. I'll figure it out. But honestly, they are reformulating. I think they're probably reformulating the gas worse and worse to get people with carbureted cars off the freaking road. I think so. But considering that Suzuki, this thing here, with it all rubber lines that are totally away from any heat source, even though it's got a mechanical fuel pump attached to the motor, right? It seems to work. Maybe, even though this hose is kind of, keeping some of the heat away from the freaking metal line. It's probably not good enough because it's all sandwiched in there. And the other thing I could do is I could put a 160 thermostat. But you know, it ain't gonna do that much good because after you shut the key off, the freaking engine temperature goes way the hell up. Probably, I don't want to do this though, but I would do this before putting an electric fuel pump in. I can tell you that right now. I do not want an electric fuel pump. I don't care if it's mounted over here. I definitely don't want one in a tank. I definitely don't want fuel injection. Screw that shit. I don't want any electronic crap. It's bad enough I got HEI. I probably will. The next thing I'll do after the thermal quad thing is I'll go the phenolic resin spacer, which I don't know if that's going to do that much good, and the pressure regulator. I'm going to go under the car, wrap the fuel line. If I see, whatever, get some fuel line wrap. And if that don't work, I'm going to get some braided steel fuel line, and that line is going to come up, I don't know, up around here somehow, with a wrap on it. I don't know, that's probably the best thing I could do. Have the line, crack that thing, have that thing pointing this way slightly, come up this way, away from the manifold, and the braided steel line is going to have to be wrapped. I mean, what the hell else am I going to do, man? Maybe have it come up here and then have a bracket off this thing that the line can hold on to right here. It comes up like that. And it's wrapped. Because it probably, that probably will cool it off. And if that don't work, an electric fan. The electric fan would work. Because the only surefire, if I leave this thing sitting for 30, if I pop the hood like this, it ain't gonna bubble. Because there's all kinds of air going around here. I guess the other thing you could do is, what's this stupid insulation do? What's it do? Keep heating the hood? What the hell's this shit though? Maybe I should take this shit off of here. Take this stupid insulation off of here. And if that don't work, cut some louvers. Louvers right down here. I'll figure it out. I want it 100%, man. This is crazy, man. I think they're doing this on purpose. And I don't think the fuel line goes anywhere. I think it's bubbling right here, right up in there. Here's my gas line goes up next to the frame, which is pretty damn far away from the catalytic converter. I don't know, man. Oh man. Well, I'm still waiting on some parts, so we'll see what happens. I don't think the phenolic resin spacer is going to do much good, but then again, maybe it will. Maybe there's fuel bubbling in here. Maybe there's, because maybe it's bubbling here, but then again, maybe it's bubbling there. If it's not bubbling there, maybe that'll be enough to start it up, push new gas in, stop the bubbling over there, and maybe that will solve it. But I got a bunch of ideas that, I'll figure this out without going to electronic crap. I'm not doing that. No way in hell. So anyway, the diesel, honestly, does make it seem like I would only put like a quart in a full tank. Like if you got 15 gallons of gas in there, 20 gallons, I just put a quart of diesel. It does seem to make it run slightly better. And that's probably not a bad idea to put some of that garbage in here because the diesel fuel is an oil. It's cheaper than Marvel Mystery Oil. I got loads of it on hand, and it's an upper cylinder lubricant, right? I mean, I don't see what the hell's wrong with using that shit. I mean, you don't put gas in a diesel car, but you can put a little bit of diesel in a gas car. Actually, I don't think it hurts a damn thing. Anyway, over and out.